Hey guys, we got the trans back from the trans builder. She's got the trans brake in it. Next thing I'm going to do is start getting the roll cage attached to the frame on Loud and Ugly. So first step, I'm going to have to take these bucket seats out. They're pretty easy. When I built these, I just have 2 bolts on each mounting point on my seat bar with some 1x1 steel welded to the top of it. I get a lot of questions about the interior of my truck. It's pretty crude. We got this roofing material that I'm using for sound deadening. The floors look like Swiss cheese in here, so that's why I put that in. It was getting a lot of heat and a lot of road noise. Then I went ahead and built this cage. We've got the harness bar, full rear loop, over the doors, both sides of the window there, down. We've got a floor bar, a door bar, and then 2 crossover bars, in which I got that 1x1 box steel that I drilled and tapped for my seats to mount to. So now we're going to take from this seat crossover bar, punch a hole through the floor, and 90 it over to the frame rail underneath. But before we get to drilling the holes in the floor, we gotta take this other seat and harnesses out. This is the interior gutted, so super simple design. And like I said, just for the seats, I got these holes that I drilled and tapped in the 1x1, loaded it straight to the crossover bar. These are the harness bolts there. I just left the back harness on for now. And now we can get to figuring out where we gotta put these holes through the floor to cross over to the frame. Okay, so here's what we got going on. We got a tubing bender and pieces right here. And then we've got my trans on the stand that we mount the tubing bender to. So I gotta take the trans off, put the tubing bender together, mount it to the stand, and then find some tubing and bend it up so I can make the 90s for the frame to seat rails. So thanks to my dad's buddy, Kevin Cody, he hooked us up with this tubing bender to borrow. And then my buddy Ed Brand, he's got the die set for this 1 5/8" pipe I'm using. So we got a little pneumatic bender here. Works really good. I actually did a full exo cage on my Jeep, but right now we're going to finish up the bends that are in the truck to go over to the frame. And I bent all this stuff with that exact same bender, so definitely experienced with it and excited to get to use it. So I had a bunch of these pieces of pipe laying around from when I did the exoskeleton roll cage on my Jeep. This was actually one of the top bars that I bent the same, and they were supposed to be opposite of each other. So I always keep old pipe around just because you never know what you can do with it. So with these benders, you always have like your start mark and then where the die actually sets. So I always just put a start mark on the pipe so that you know and can keep all your bends consistent. And then right where it zeroes out and the die hits the pipe, and then you can start bending. And then there's a little gauge on the bender, I can show you that in a minute, where you can actually set it to whatever degree. So we got our template from the last bend that I made. Set it on there. Perfect. Now I'm just going to cut this one and start on the second and third bend. We're on the last bend. so you can see I went to 92 degrees. That's because there's, in a bender, normally, you know, when you're putting pressure on a piece of metal like that, you gotta bend just a little bit past, and then it's got kickback is what it's called. So it's got a 2-degree kickback on this bender. That's why I went to 92 degrees to get a 90-degree bend. That way when I release pressure off the jack, this will straighten out and be right at 90 degrees. We've got all 3 of these pieces already cut, same size. Those are going to be the outriggers from the frame to the seat rail, and I'll show you where those go in just a second. There we have it, our 90-degree bend. So I've just been using the ones that I cut out to cut them to the exact same size. You just lay them on here, line them up, draw your 2 lines to cut, and throw them in the bandsaw. Well, I just broke the bandsaw blade, so on the last cut, it just barely nicked it, and then boop, broke it. So now I'm moving on to the angle grinder. Then I'll show you where these go, and then I'm going to call it a day. So you can see we got 2 exactly the same here, 2 exactly the same here. We got driver's side and passenger side outriggers. And then those are going to go underneath the truck and then up through the floor. Let me show you guys where. So we've got, this is a rocker over here, or what's left of it. Got the exhaust, and then this is where the frame is. So I'm gonna 90 off of the frame up here. We'll hole saw a hole in the floor, and then that's gonna go right up in there, just like so. So that'll go off there, and then obviously that'll be through the floor with a notch on this end up here, and then it'll stick right through. Oh, a lot of up and down today. It'll go in there just like this. Okay, so today we got the truck seats and harnesses ripped out. Game plan marked out where I want to cut the holes in the floor. We got the tubing bender set up, which kind of took longer than expected, and that's why I didn't have enough time to notch these and get them drilled through the floor. I mounted up, welded and everything. I had to do a little modifying to what our mount was for the engine stand for the bender itself. So everything always ends up taking longer than it should. That's us working on cars. So next episode you can catch us getting these notched and put in there and welded to the frame and the seat crossover bar, and then that way we've got a legal roll cage. Right now it's this 4-point. I'm going to go through the firewall as well up to the front of the frame for the 6-point cage. So on that note, we'll catch you next time on Loud and Ugly Garage for the next episode.